there is something so needed for the women of today that we can see within the story of the Samaritan woman at the well. Like, for Jesus as a Jew man to sit at this well and ask a woman for water, knowing that Jesus doesn't need anything. He doesn't need anything.
Yeah.
But he sought her heart by asking her if he could have a drink of water. Not thirsting for water, but thirsting for her heart. Hey, welcome back to the Come Holy Spirit podcast. I am Tom Wynn, and I am joined with my dear friend Daniel Ordonez. And it's always a joy for us to always be in person together and have our episodes here. Daniel, how's it going? What have you been up to?
I'm doing so well. I've been kind of all over the place recently. I just sat down with Father Don earlier this week, which you guys will obviously see before this, but just got back from Florida. Saw Vincent out there. He's one of the guys that went to Rome with us, actually. And then I was at Seek as well, which was amazing. It has been a packed break, but if I'm being totally honest, I am really ready to get back to the seminary. Just the routine, the morning mass, everything. The brotherhood. Like the big Catholic frat house. I miss my guys.
And you miss the boys.
I do miss the boys. The shenanigans at the seminary life are so fun. I don't miss the long essays, but it'll be okay because it's good for formation. So,
right.
What have you been up to recently?
Well, recently, it's a joy to be the new mayor of Garden City, Kansas, the youngest mayor in the town's history. And I've just been so overwhelmed by the amount of love that's being offered to me. I think this is like a weird thing. I recognize that I'm a public figure, and I recognize that in a way a lot of people know me, but it's a lot weirder because in these news stations, even from Vietnam, and I'm like, what the buns is happening right now? And so
wild. It
is a big blessing by the Lord, and I'm so grateful that you were there at my installation and all of our other friends, dear friends to me. But it's been fun. It's been weird, though, to be a mayor.
Yeah, it's so cool because I was there, obviously, at your mayoral installation,
yeah.
Is that what it's called? And it was really funny. Tom came up to us, and Tom has a lot of Catholic friends, and we were all sitting on one side of this, of the room.
Yeah.
And he was like, guys, the side of the room just became very Catholic. So it was really cool. Obviously, getting to be there, have cake, and all of that stuff, and see you all dressed up, all fancy. What was really funny yesterday, we were at Applebee's. It was me, Tom, and my brothers, and we were there. They have half-price apps, not silent plug. It's so affordable.
The apps.
After 9 p.m. It's just so affordable. Yeah. So we were there, and like 4 times somebody came up to Tom just to be like, congratulations. It was just really funny. Because you were already kind of a public figure because of the vice mayor thing, but now it's so hilarious because more people know about it.
Yeah, more people know about it, and it's also really an honor because a lot of those people I haven't talked to in years. Mm-hmm. Like there was one who I had a class with him in high school, and the only time I see him is like if we might shop at the same place or something. Yeah. It's like I don't even have his contact, and so like the joy and grace in knowing that like there's so many people loving and supporting me has been incredible. And such a joy. And I think that's kind of a part of what we want to talk about today.
Yeah. So we don't have any specific like saint to cover today or anything like that. And I know just this past week you guys heard about Father Don's perspective on that season between Advent and Lent. But really today I kind of just want to get into the Seek reflections, but also I think something really fun to talk about. Tom does this thing, and I started it barely this year. It's like your word of the year and what it is and why. And also I've picked a saint this year that I feel like has been following me around.
Good.
So that'll be a good thing to probably like wrap up with and stuff. I don't know if you have a saint of the year.
I do, but we can get into the end.
Yeah. Perfect.
But for you, Daniel, could you walk us through like what your time in Seek looked like? Things that stood out to you, moments that you felt the Lord's grace, like your gigs, right? The moments that you saw how good the Lord is to us and his goodness, and that. Yeah, what are some of your reflections or moments that stuck out to you from Seek?
Yes. So this was my first time ever going to Seek. I had no idea what to expect. It's my first time being a seminarian at Seek, but again, my first time going to Seek in general. And it's so funny because I've been to a lot of conferences in high school and in college and even like post-college, and I was always just like another attendee there. This time it was a little bit different because I was not just dressed like everybody else, especially during mass, right? So like throughout the day when it was normal conference talks, all that stuff, like, yes, I'm in my normal clothes. Next year we might do polos. We just didn't know the vibe because nobody told us anything.
Brand new first year.
And yeah, we both had never gone. Both John and I, and then Jonathan went with us as well. Another one of our seminarians. He's been a couple times. But so we had our own vestment room, the seminary vestment room, which was actually so cool because it was right beside the priest vestment room was on our left, and on the right of us was the bishop's vestment room. And it's such a crazy feeling. Like at this point in my life, I had 2 separate bishops. Neither of them are my bishop. They come up to me and recognize me. The Bishop of Salina, Bishop Minky, and then the Bishop of Wichita, Bishop Kemi. And just like seeing all the bishops like in there, they're just like having these conversations, and there's a few archbishops. And I'm like, this is insane, guys. So we walk out and the first day and we're dressed up and we have our collars on, and the boys and I took a little selfie. You know how it is. I was like, this is so cool. But it's just a different vibe because we have these assigned like reserve seats in the front of the church. Yeah. And we actually so the Denver seminarians got to serve for the extra mass, but we got to like serve in the sense of like we helped the priest go to the lines in communion and kind of be Jesus bodyguards in a sense. Yeah, we were ushers,
glorified ushers,
but we were Jesus bodyguards as well. Like that was part of the description of our position. Essentially, they were like, make sure everybody receives and doesn't walk away with Jesus, unless obviously they don't receive.
Yeah.
So yeah, my whole time, my eyes were just going back and forth. There's hundreds of people coming up at one point, thousands, right? Just not in my specific line.
You guys were kind of like Swiss guards, protecting Jesus, holding your sword.
Yeah. If the priesthood doesn't work out for me, maybe I move to Rome and become a Swiss guard for the Pope. That would be amazing. But yeah, it was definitely a different vibe. And it's so interesting, like walking around in our cassocks, just to and from the vestment room. And this one guy came up to me at the end, like the absolute end. And I had just taken my surplice off because we were done serving. He was like, hey, he's like, are you a priest? And I was like, no, I'm not a seminarian. And he was like, can you still hear confessions though? I was like, I mean, I could hear your sins, but I can't actually, I can't forgive them. I can give you advice, but how about we find you a priest? So it was really funny on that side.
It was really incredible to me to see the amount of seminarians just be flooding the front. And I think it's just a tremendous honor to have front row seats. Funny enough, though, is that if you are a priest, part of the consecration, you actually stand. And so it was funny because the seminarians are right behind the priests. And so I don't think, could you actually see Jesus? Because the priests were standing as part of the liturgy.
That was another wild thing. So the priests have a lot of specific parts that they speak during the mass that nobody else does. So like obviously during mass, the priest is saying the stuff and then you respond. But it was so wild that because of how many priests were there, it sounded like from where we're sitting, like the entire congregation per se is saying the part of the priest, but it was just all these priests in front of us like saying this together. And I was like, that is so cool.
Praise God.
Praise God. Yeah, we were at the Denver Seek, which a lot of people were like, oh, this is the smaller Seek and stuff like that. I still think it was amazing.
It was amazing. We had about 16,000 people. I know the Dallas-Fort Worth Area one was actually a little bit smaller, but I'm really interested and intrigued to hear of the certain talks that stuck out with you, Daniel. We did go to a lot of talks together, especially with Monsignor Shea, and even talks about how can we talk about LGBTQ topics with our brothers and sisters in the faith who are. And so what are some talks that stuck out to you? And
So one of my favorite talks is actually one of Monsignor Shea's talks. And the part that really stuck out to me, though, he gave a lot of good information, but he actually was talking about the woman at the well, right? The first disciple, essentially, the first evangelizer, the first person to get sent out. And it was just so good because it was like this perspective. He went through like the history of the relationship between the Jews and the Samaritans. So he went through this like history relationship, and I'd never heard it in this way to understand like how much tension there actually was.
So much.
Yeah, you just hear and you're like, oh, like they just don't like the Samaritans. And really it's like, no, there is a lot of beef between them.
Right.
So when the saint, when the woman at the well, and her name is Saint Fotina, I did not know that before. I'd never heard her name. When Jesus came up to her, she was like actually so confused. Like, why would a Jewish man approach a woman by herself, a Samaritan, and why would he ask me for a drink of water? So she was actually this thing. And it was so good, like hearing his perspective and obviously talking about the story. And it's like, yeah, you're actually not married. You've had 5 husbands and like this whole thing. And the man you're living with right now is not your husband. And she, coming from this point of shame, still was so excited to go and spread the gospel and spread the word of God and spread that she met the Messiah door. She was one of the biggest catalysts in Jesus' movement ever. And most people don't even know her name.
Long even after Jesus died too. And I think something to point within Monsignor Shea, for those that don't know, is the president of University of Mary. And so he has such a beautiful way of presenting these topics, these talks, in a very theatrical way, not like is very performative, and it evokes the emotions so beautifully. And some of my takeaways that even in that talk was simply, there is something so needed for the women of today that we can see within the story of the Samaritan woman at the well. Like for Jesus as a Jew man to sit at this well and ask a woman for water, knowing that Jesus doesn't need anything. He doesn't need anything. Yeah. But he sought her heart by asking her if he could have a drink of water. Not thirsting for water, but thirsting for her heart. Yeah. Like Jesus thirsts for her heart so deeply and so dearly, even through her shame, even through her willingness to walk and bear the burden of going in the middle of the day when no one's there because everyone else is talking so much crap about her. Yeah. In the heat. Yeah. Like it is simply just this beautiful realization that, oh my goodness, the Lord desires me so much more. He thirsts for my heart, especially when I'm ashamed to be his son. And I think that was such a realization of like, it's okay to be who we are. It's okay that we sin. And he draws us out just as he drew living body and water for us. Even with the shame, she still, like you said, went and did this anyways. And it just helped me reflect again on like my life, like how sold out am I actually to going and evangelizing the truth of God? And she had this amazing experience, and she was like, he told me everything I've ever done. But it's also like I reflect on like how many amazing experiences that I've had with God. I've literally received him in the Eucharist. I've literally like seen him work like miracles and things in my life and in the lives of others. Like, why am I not that excited as she was? That conviction's hard. Yeah. And it's so real, but to see her offer her life to ministry simply because Jesus knew her heart, I think is a very unsettling thing for me because it makes me feel ashamed too. Like, I feel like God knows my heart really well and I can experience that and feel that. But I don't think I'm really willing as much as Saint Faustina. Her name is Saint Faustina. Thank you. A really funny point that he had brought up, kind of just correlating all of this with Saint Faustina. He basically said that this is the person that I like to ask for prayers so much all the time because nobody knows her name. All these other saints, Saint Joseph, Saint Peter, Saint John, like all these saints, these mega saints from the Bible, they're so busy. Essentially, everybody's asking for their intercession of prayers. Right. Everybody's always being like, hey, can you help me with this? And there's all these big dog saints, and Saint Faustina, who's also a massive saint in the Bible, one of the biggest evangelists that we see in the entire Bible. People don't know her name. Yeah. So he's always like, Saint Faustina, pray for me. Like, pray for me for this. He basically said that my prayers are going to get to Jesus a lot quicker because she has a lot more time on her hands. And I think it's funny because now he's opened that box to everybody. And so she's going to be even busier. Yes. Yeah. But beyond that, what other talks or other reflections? I know that we met a lot of people there. We did. And so I don't know, that impacted your experience at Seek. Yeah, there was definitely a few other talks. I mean, hearing Tanner Kalina's talk was really good, and just talking about like why he wasn't fulfilled. There was one of the men's talks where they walked through the mastery of boyhood as manhood and the mastery of manhood as fatherhood. Wow. And not in the sense of like a spiritual father, but also just being a father, like actually being a leader of men instead of just being a man yourself. So there's a lot of that we can dive into, but also my biggest reflection though
not to diminish any of the talks, it was amazing. But some of the things I'd heard before, some of the things just were reminders and refreshers, like pour out so much you get filled back up. But one of the biggest things was just the people that we had met and having to getting to hear all these amazing stories and just the late nights chatting and meeting the seminarians. There was one specific seminarian that we met, and he's only a second year. And after hearing his words of prayer and how he speaks, I was like, wow, I suck. I have so much to clean up. It was just so funny.
The seminarian, if he ever comes across this, which hopefully one day we can have him on the podcast, but I think my first impression of him was his soft and gentle tone, but also so full of humility, was wait a minute, this man is searching for so much holiness, and he's trying to embody it as much as he can. Not to say that those who have boisterous voices can't be holy, but you could definitely sense the softness because of how much he sees the Lord's love in his life. And he told us basically how his testimony came to be for him to be in seminary, that I think he was engaged, right?
Yeah. He was engaged. They had broken up. They had taken a little gap month, and then he just realized that he wasn't fulfilled, or he wasn't missing the relationship. And it was so funny because he was telling all this stuff, how he's having these pulls from God. And I was like, oh my gosh, his story is so similar to mine.
What a parallel.
And he just shares it so much better, but it was so good.
And not to say that he didn't love his fiancée at the time, or that it wasn't I wasn't satisfied. I think it simply was the fact that I love this person so dearly, but I also don't miss her in the way that I would miss a wife, I think. I think that's the parallel that he was drawing.
Yeah.
But it was just so admirable. I think imagine how hard it was for his fiancée, for both of them to come to this decision together and be this is the path that the Lord is asking you to go on. And I'm he also points to the fact that if he was not engaged, he probably would not be in seminary.
Right.
What a blessing that is to say. What a blessing for his fiancée to be in that position too.
Yeah, to guide him that way. And what was so cool, it's he was, I think he was 25, 26.
Yeah.
And what I've been realizing too, the way that I got into seminary by being in the Diocese of Wichita for where I'm at a seminary, they have a very young culture. They have a bunch of very young seminarians. And in my head, all I'm seeing is wow, guys just go to seminary straight out of high school. That's just how it is. And while I'm here at Seek, I met one seminarian that was straight out of high school. No, there was two seminarians straight out of high school. The rest of them were 20, 21, or 25, 26, 27, and they're in their second year. And even later in the week, when I went back to Kansas City, right before I flew out to Florida, there's two seminarians that were at Simple House. They were propa dudes, and they were 26 and 29, also from the Diocese of Denver. And not to say that Denver just has an older culture, but it's just you can still go to seminary older. And it also made me feel wow, maybe I'm not that old entering seminary. I'm exactly where God needs me to be in this time.
And we get a really good example of that from Father John from our last episode, right? To enter seminary much later in his life.
At 50 years old.
At 50 years old. And so I think moments like that are moments where it helps us kind of realize that snap, it's never too late to answer God's call. Never. Whether that be a fruitful desire for a relationship, a fruitful desire for a relationship with the Lord, but also the amount of people that we met to hear their stories. And I think that Daniel and I, we are growing and learning the flow of friendship by drawing other people in that.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful for my friendship with Daniel because we both have our different ways of making friends, but we also do it very compatibly. It flows very well. And a couple of friendships that were so funny is while Daniel was on the other side of the bar chatting with an older couple, I was on the right side chatting with some students from UMary, and we went on an 1.5-hour tangent.
Yeah.
About what it's like to have these moral, ethical dilemmas. And we were tying it back into the Catholic faith. And so it's the same concept.
There's so many. Yeah.
There's so many. And hopefully we can bring it to you guys one day. But just the beauty of friendship stirring because the Lord is asking us to be vulnerable, obviously in an emotionally chaste way, of course.
Yes.
But to be vulnerable, to offer our heart, because we are sanctuary lamps. We are the lamp at the tabernacle, signifying to the Lord that, signifying to other people that the Lord is present here.
Yes.
And hopefully mine burns a lot longer. Hopefully it doesn't ever fade away, but it was just beautiful. Yeah, what was your perspective from all our friendships that were formed?
Yeah, I think to kind of, I guess, tie into that a little two-parter here, it was something that I heard in Tanner's talk that helped me reflect more on this, to where he said he was in the acting world and he had some friends that were friends of his for a really long time. And he said he found out, one of his friends found out, he doesn't even remember the context or anything, but he found out, it came in conversation, that he was a Christian. And his friend told him, they're like, wow, Tanner, like that's crazy that you're a Christian.
Right.
I would have never guessed.
Yeah.
And it shifted Tanner's entire perspective, because he said 6 days of the week he was out here with his other friends and he was like doing all these things, or he was partying, or he's acting, or he's doing all this stuff. And then on Sundays he was at mass and he was with his church group. And he completely rocked his world. He's like, wow, like I've been friends with this man for so many years.
Closest friends.
Yeah, with closest friends. And he never realized that I was a Christian. And that was a heart shift. So kind of like tying that into where we're at with like all these people that we're meeting, it's not that it's my goal, but it's the fact that if somebody can't see Jesus in me in a conversation, I'm not having that conversation fruitfully or doing it correctly per se. Like my goal should be to show Jesus to everybody that I come across, because I am so in love with pursuing him at the highest level. And I know the truth of needing to follow him. Why would I not want to share that with anybody? And it's not the thing that we always have to say it, but just how it's Jesus actually being shown through us with how we interact with people. And that was kind of what I was saying with people at Seek, just being able to have those interactions and see Jesus through them too, which is so fun.
Yeah, and Daniel and I are very complementary in that way. I think Daniel's ability to offer the Lord and how others can see the Lord in him is actually through the manner of the way you speak, the manner of the way you talk, the questions that you ask. And for myself, I think I'm actually much more of a listener than my desire to talk. And so I think that I think some people would disagree. But I think the point is that I think our different skill sets are both, like, I think in a way I'm a lot more introverted. I do need time for myself. And so that was really beautiful to be able to tag team off of Daniel and be there and present to listen, and also still offer the Lord in a way of listening to. And I think there was one evening where we stayed up to chat even about 2 a.m. in the morning.
It was late.
Listening to the new friends that we made share these difficult moments in their life, these moments where the season of suffering, and they're all different, right? We have one who's engaged and two who are discerning marriage, but to offer and listen to their stories illuminated to me that maybe there's a lot more to listening than to talking all the time. There was one particular moment that I was asked to offer, like, why am I in politics, etc. And as soon as I offered, and also like what my previous relationship life looked like, it also was so beautiful to see the response from the friend that we had be so passionate about her advice to me right away. And I think that really showed that maybe we're just catalysts. Maybe we simply are here to stir the pot of love, so that other people can see Jesus better.
I totally agree. Basically it's giving that perspective. God, I am nothing and I have nothing without you. So utilize me to bring others closer to you. And that's just the whole purpose with this. It's just so funny sometimes the little like comments or stuff that you hear about people that you just help to guide somebody to just understand more. One that's a really funny example, one of the ladies there, she's engaged, and she was like asking questions about like the seminary. She hasn't talked to a lot of seminarians, hasn't met a lot of priests. And I was kind of sharing my testimony a little bit about how like I was in a really long relationship and I have a really high desire for marriage and kids, but obviously that's a sacrifice that you make, even if you do become a priest. And she was dumbfounded. She was shocked.
Whole world flipped.
Yeah. She said, wait, what? She's like, I thought that guys became priests because they just weren't interested in getting married or having kids. That's what I always thought. And she's been Catholic her whole life. And I was like, actually, no, it's the complete opposite. They have a high desire for this, but they sacrifice this forever. But what's so funny is that 2 years ago, I probably would have thought the same thing.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think about. But what about for you, Tom? Obviously, we're at Seek for a couple of days. What was some of the reflections that you had as well?
Some of the big reflections was I was actually so excited to see Tanner Kalina. Tanner Kalina is one of my favorite evangelists, modern evangelists, I would say. He writes an amazing book called Aching for Greatness, and kind of touching on the points of how should we, as this new desire is that the Lord has not made us for comfort. He has made us for greatness. And all of our hearts seek that out, and there are very four tangible ways. And I hope the plug is that hopefully Tanner comes on the show one day, but also we can have him on and talk about the book, so I won't spoil it now. But a big part that I kind of come to recognize was having so much hope. There was a lot of hope through these friendships that we had. And the reason that I had hope in these friendships was living in Garden City, and especially when Daniel and all my friends are not back in town, the daily grind here in this small community, especially when you're back at home, is very difficult. I think that I lack a lot of people my age to be able to talk about the Lord, to be drawn to the Lord in a way that's age appropriate, I think. The easy way to say that, yes, I can be involved in youth group, high school youth group. I can be involved through my work at the church. But it's actually that we all need people similar in age to us so that we can be able to speak and share the Lord. Because not that we all have the same trajectories in life, but we're also at that age of physical development where our brains can see the Lord in a similar way, through a similar lens. But also one more thing that really, really stuck out to me was also that connection piece. Was my front row seat to Daniel throughout the moments that we were together. I got to see Daniel connect with all of these seminarians, these priests, these religious sisters, simply because he was a seminarian. There was an automatic brotherhood. There was an automatic moment of family simply because you were a seminarian, Daniel. And I think that was very beautiful to see that in a way you were adopted by these people. Yeah. In a way, these people chose this community, and that was just beautiful to see your interactions with them. And also, I think it was such a beautiful joy to love the Lord in such a charismatic and energetic way. It brought me so much hope to see that our generation of young people are fine. Yeah. Actually, more than fine, because Gen Z has one of the most Catholics out of all the generations. That is such a weird concept to me. Yeah. And the amount of confessions that were heard was big. And all of these people kneeling for Eucharistic adoration. Just to see them kneel warmed my heart to know that just because the days when I don't feel the Lord and I don't feel like I pay back my duties of worship well enough, I'm okay to know that there are others who do it better than I do.
Yeah, it definitely was so wild being, adopted in a sense that everybody, it's not that they treat you differently, but they just have a different type of connection when they find out that you're you understand, the religious brothers. It's so funny. You go up to one of the booths and they're would you like to check out our order or whatever. Yeah, our relics. Yeah, there's a relic booth. It wasn't a relic booth, but one of the Capuchins called it a relic booth because it had so many relics. Yeah. It was amazing. But it'd just be funny going up to one of the tables and be would you like to check out our order? I'm actually guys, I'm kind of taken right now. I'm a seminarian. And it's just so funny. They just have a way different conversation because they get it, you know? And I did also have that big reflection of the confessions. There was thousands of people that day at Seek that received the sacrament of confession. And there was, and you not even count throughout the week how much there was, because I didn't even go that day. I went the day before. And it was so funny. I went at the most opportune time where there was no line to where all parts of the day though, there was a 30, 40, 50 hour wait, just to go and have your confession heard. Which is so beautiful that people are desiring to go and be able to receive Jesus again, to reunite this communion with him, this relationship with him. And it was such a beautiful thing to see.
And we saw it happen before our eyes. Like we were there to experience it. We were there to cheer them on. But just one quick piece on confession. I think another talk at Seek that really moved my heart was there are actually a lot of moments that I'm not vulnerable enough in my confessional. Like, I don't think that there are all the wounds that have come to the surface yet. Yeah. And that's something that stuck out to me was, I think I have wounds still in my heart that I have not yet confessed. Maybe because I'm too much of a chicken to confess them, or maybe because I don't think they're that bad. Mm-hmm. But if I like the moments that they finally come up to the surface because of life, because of relationships we have, because of interactions we have, it basically stumbled me, basically made me drop to my knees in a way of saying, like, am I willing and able to bring the wounds of my heart to the Lord? Or am I just bringing simply the skin knees instead of the stab wounds I've put on myself? And that was really, really hard to say, dang, Lord, kind of need that humility today.
Yeah. It's not easy because a lot of times we just assume that our confessions are good enough.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know what? This is good enough for me to be able to receive communion again, or this is good enough for me to get into heaven. But it's like God isn't asking for a good enough. He's asking for all for him. And that is deep. That is very deep. It was also so beautiful, the music and singing at the top of our lungs. I'm very, like I said, transitioned to a silent adoration guy. Yeah. But every once in a while, when they have the live band and the songs that we've known for years, and I'm just like, I think there was only one song out of like the 20 that they played that I didn't know word for word.
Overall, I think a lot of these moments really aided in how we can offer our ministry in a very refreshed way. There's a lot of bread for the journey. Mm-hmm. And it was really beautiful that it was at the beginning of the year. And so it's something that I do every year since, 2018, 2019, is I pick a word to focus on for the year, a word to ask the Lord, how can I embody this word better, Lord? And if you're watching over video on YouTube, I wear this bracelet. It's a permanent bracelet. And so this permanent bracelet was a tradition that started when I was a junior in high school. So for every permanent bracelet that I have, I would associate a word to it. Mm-hmm. And so, if I'm being honest, I got kind of lazy. So I think this is a couple years old. But this word in particular for my blue bracelet, permanent bracelet I'm wearing, is the word fiat. And let it be done. So yeah, that was a tough year for me to turn to the Lord as well. So be careful for what your word is. But I don't know, Daniel, do you have a word for this year or anything, or maybe even a saint that you're trying to befriend this year?
Yeah, I definitely, my word, I figured out, and I reflected a lot on this, and I was running from this word a little bit ago. Not a little bit ago. I was running from this word a little bit just for the sake of the gravity of what I know this word is going to put on my life and on my heart. And I know it's gonna be a big challenge, but it's gonna be very necessary. And I think it's really important that this is what I'm going with because of the fact of the season that I'm in. I'm a new seminarian. This is my first New Year as a seminarian, so it'll be an entire 12 months of this life, God willing. So my word this year is surrender. And I am a little nervous. I'm a little nervous with this word. It's so funny because last year Tom's was gratitude, and I saw it. What was it not?
Generosity.
Oh, that's what I meant to say. So it's so funny because last year Tom's word was generosity, and I was able to be a witness to how much he was just giving, whether it was buying the appetizers in Rome or buying something for the silent auction. He was just so giving this whole year, and I'm really focused on going into this year's surrender. And more surrendering my own wants and desires. And it's so funny because you would think, you already did that last year. You surrendered your whole life plan that you had put together to go to seminary. But it's yes, I did that, but now it's actually time to surrender my desires and my wants at another level. And I'm really excited to see where God's going to take this. But I'm also really nervous.
It's scary.
But it's okay though. It's okay. Yeah. And you said, so your word this year is fiat.
Yeah, that was my
No,
word
okay.
before.
That's what I was about to say. Let me read that because I was really confused because I know what your word is. Okay, but yeah, so I'm a little nervous going into this year with this word as well because it's a big word. There's a lot of ways that surrender can come into this, and just a lot of things that I'm gonna have to let go that I probably never thought I would need to let go or want to let go. But at the end of the day, if I'm surrendering to God's will, that's what I need to do. What is your word for this year, Tom?
Yeah, before I share my word for this year, I must warn you that the years, like when I pick a word for that year, it is so incredibly hard to embody that. Like generosity was so hard this year, so hard. And it's really beautiful because it demanded that the Lord was giving me so many opportunities to be generous. And if I were to say no, I think I would have been okay. But I think that the Lord was asking me to stretch my heart in that way. So I'm praying for you that the Lord stretches your heart as you surrender in the many aspects of your life. And actually, my word for this year came from Monsignor Shea's talk of that there are a lot of moments in life that we're really prepared for the big moments, but we're not as prepared for the small moments. Sometimes we forget to be prepared for that. And so he was saying how we need to spend more time squandering all these moments in our life. And squandering is, in a way, like not taking things seriously, being very reckless to waste those moments. But I think Monsignor Shea's point wasn't to be reckless and wasteful of certain things, but actually for us to not take things so seriously, but also taking advantage of the fact that, hey, is your friend asking you to go to Italy on a random day in December? Do that. Is your friend asking you to, hey, like, would you be willing to grab ice cream with me and chat? Do that. Or even it's simply the fact of, should I buy X, Y, and Z? Obviously within reason, do that. Like the point is, how can we bring the Lord into the small, intimate moments of our lives? And I think the best way for me is, how can I invite the Lord to help me squander the small moments so that I can be better prepared to be good at the small things? I think I'm not very good at the small things. I think I'm much better at the bigger things in my life, quotation marks with that, because if they're bigger, I feel like they're more important, but if they're smaller, they're not as important. All of that to say, squander is my word for this year.
That is so good. And it's just so funny because at the end of the year, I feel like we really got into that squander mindset towards like, let's just do it. Let's just go. Like that was literally the whole preface of our Italy trip. Like, let's just go. But it's just like in those little things where it's like on my way home, then I was like, oh, I could literally stop at Nays and just have lunch with a couple friends just cause. Might as well. Is there anything to gain from it? Absolutely not. But it's just like, just do it. I actually really love that for you this year. And I'm going to be praying that you can really focus on squandering in all areas and relationships of your life.
Thank you. And I think it also leads to like, can we squander the moments to evangelize? Can we squander the moments to be better friends? Like, wouldn't it be crazy if we just sat down with a random person at a fast food restaurant just to learn who they are? But beyond that, Daniel, do you have a saint for the year? Because I know I pick one every year.
Yeah.
So do you have a saint for this year?
Yes, I do. I feel like the saint has been chasing me a lot this past couple of weeks or this past month. And I realize a little more now as to why. And it honestly makes a lot of sense. And the saint that I am going to want to grow closer with so much this year is actually St. Peter.
Wow.
Yeah, which is, yes, big dog saint. I know they're like, really, Daniel, you couldn't have been unique, but there's just so much to go here. The first funny point is that on Halloween, we had a costume dress up thing at seminary, which I never would have thought. If I'm being so for real, I was like, the last people that I thought would celebrate Halloween would be seminarians, but then I realized it's actually a Catholic-based holiday, All Hallows Eve, all this stuff. It is literally just the eve of All Saints Day. So like makes sense that we're celebrating this. And a lot of the guys dressed up as like characters from movies or the mafia. Right. It was really funny. And I had this idea, I'm just going to dress up as one of the apostles. It's going to be so great. And as much as I was trying to do all the other ones, the one that stuck with me was Peter. There's St. Peter. And I just started like learning so much more about him. For some reason, I didn't even, this is going to sound really green, but like the significance of the keys. I knew the significance, but like I never pictured in my head that it was a silver and a gold one and like the whole like thing.
Yeah.
So I had to learn about that because I didn't want to get the costume wrong.
That's so
but
good.
it's just so fun. And the reason that I'm also picking Peter this year, or I guess more, I feel like he's picked me this year, if I'm being honest, is because I feel like my St. Peter moment.
Wow.
Right? Tom and I, we were at a Bible study yesterday that he leads with some of the kids, and it was so funny that he picked the calling of Peter, the gospel, this episode of the calling of Peter, and it was just so crazy, of Simon at the time. And obviously you have that one line, Simon Peter, which we could talk about in a different, because there's so much to unpack there.
Wow, I know.
But it was just so funny because Jesus, he goes out and he's very specific and he knows they're going to be there, and he's met these guys already, right? He was at Simon's house, literally the chapter before. Then he goes up and he asks if he can use their boat. And he tells Simon, he's like, hey, like lower your nets and go get more fish. And Simon could have been like, well, that's kind of crazy. We've been here all night and that didn't work. So now all of a sudden it's going to work. But he didn't even question it immediately. Yeah. He's like, oh, we've been here all night. But yeah, sure. And he did it. And he's just filled with all these fish. And they have more than enough. And immediately falls to his knees and says, depart from me, Lord, for I am not worthy, for I'm a sinful man. And Jesus tells him immediately, right? He's like follow me, like you'll be a fisherman, depending on the version or your, however it says, but like, follow me, you'll become fisher of men. And immediately he leaves everything and follows him.
Everything.
And that's what's so beautiful for me, where I feel like I had my St. Peter moment, and not to compare myself out of pride, but just like this perspective of, I was at a point in my life where Jesus called me very specifically. He called me to pick up, or to leave my things and to follow him. And the next day is when I made the decision, and I abandoned everything to just follow him at the highest level. And the reason, though, more for Peter, not to like say like, oh, this is so great, I'm going to be the Pope. Like, that's not what I'm saying. But the reason it's also this is because Peter does this. He has this big act of obedience to God and this big act of humility of abandoning everything. But then he still screws up again and again and again and again. And he denies Christ 3 times publicly. And the reason this was so like impactful for me is because even though like I'm at this stage in my life where yes, I'm pursuing God at the highest level that I can, even though there's always so much more at the highest level that I'm trying to get to, I still screw up so much every day. And I have to go to confession all the time. And I sometimes say words that I'm not supposed to, or I get angry, or I offend somebody, or I'm on the road and I'm road rage and I cut somebody off because I'm mad. Yeah. And like, there's all these like little things, like I'm still so unclean. And it was when we saw St. Peter's tomb in Rome, that was one of my biggest prayer reflections, where I was like, God, like you utilized somebody that was not perfect, that had a lot of issues, that had a lot of personality and sinned a lot. And you still utilized him to create your church, like utilize me as well. So yeah, I'm excited to get to know Peter more this year, to become pals, because there's just so much there.
I think that's a really beautiful reflection, and it obviously exemplifies that you have spent a lot of deep prayer and thought. And I think you're right. I think that St. Peter has chosen you more than you have chosen him. I think we call that saint stalking. Like that's
it is saint stalking.
The saint somehow just ends up stalking us. And so I think for myself, this past year, I asked for the intercession of Blessed Selena's Casey. But I think that this year I've been so drawn to St. Francis of Assisi. And it is really funny because in a way, I think that was saint stalking too. Like, had I not, this is so crazy actually. I don't think I would have spent as much time in Assisi had I not missed my train to Padua to see St. Anthony, who's behind me right here, right there. But also, this is so dumb. And people are like, how did you not know this? So obviously, St. Anthony of Padua is a Franciscan. And I kid you not, it just occurred to me like last week that St. Francis started the Franciscans, which St. Anthony's a part of. Like, I know St. Francis started the Franciscans. I just never made the connection that my patron saint, St. Anthony, that connection wasn't clear to me.
That's almost as green as me with the keys, by the way. I'm not more green.
If not more. And I'm really embarrassed to say that But yeah, just to show that we're still baby Catholics and we're still learning. But
Yes.
The emotional depth that I felt from St. Francis's tomb and the emotional depth that I hear from his story in St. Michael's Lent was simply the fact that a lot of the things he did were not very popular.
Mm.
And when the Lord offered to St. Francis of what he's supposed to do, he was told, you should go build a church. St. Francis got it wrong.
Mm. He built the wrong church.
He built the wrong church. The Lord wasn't asking him for a physical church. He was asking him to build a church of the people.
Mm.
And so that just really hit me that
Mm.
I know there's so many things that I hear from the Lord, but I don't get it right the first time or the second time or the third time. But that's not the point. The point is that God willing, I'll eventually get it right. And I hope that St. Francis can move my heart to eventually get it right this year or get closer to doing the Lord's will in my life. But yeah, we encourage you guys to spend some time in prayer to pick a word for this year and also a saint for this year, because as we offer that in general, I think that the graces in heaven are poured down to us much more richly in a way that these saints are like, oh my gosh, I'm so honored that he or she's picked me. And so I will offer even more graces. But beyond that, we were praying for you, and it is going to be sad that I won't have Daniel to call all the time. It will be kind of sad that Daniel and I can't just drive around at 11, hop in a random place and just giggle around as like middle schoolers. But I'm grateful for our friendship, and I'm grateful for how the Lord uses us. And please know that we are so grateful for the love that you're offering to us. Always know that we're praying for you, and we will catch you guys on the next episode.